just came back from an assignment in Salisbury. Come down and have a listen. Something strange has been going on at Stonehenge.
What do you mean, Nigel?
From what I overheard, it sounds like a druid attacked one of the gods in the dead of night. No one knows why.
Yikes, how creepy. Let's see what else Aunt Miranda can tell us. Looks like Aunt Miranda and Uncle Basil are talking about the case right now.
He wasn't hurt, just knocked unconscious.
Well, it's all rather mysterious, isn't it? Reminds me a bit of my novella, The Secret of Blagden Grange. You remember, dear? All about the man who wakes up and finds that his house has been burgled, but nothing's missing.
Yes, Basil, I remember it. That's exactly what's so odd about this case. No one's even sure if anything was removed from the area. I mean, who would try to haul away one of those huge stones? This one really has the police puzzled. It appears that a guard at Stonehenge was attacked last night. A fellow by the name of Avery. Someone put a rag soaked in chloroform, a powerful anaesthetic, over his mouth and nose. The next thing he knew, it was hours later and he had been lying on the ground, unconscious. The really juicy bit is that the man swears this happened after he went to investigate a mysterious white-robed figure he saw lurking amongst the stones. I bet my article on this bizarre event will make the front page. I'll make the headline, Druid Attack at Stonehenge. Inspector Gage said that the case file would be available later today over at Scotland Yard. I must get a look at it.
Salisbury Plain is where Stonehenge is located. The place has always been shrouded in mystery. No one is sure who built the ancient stone circle or what it was used for. But there are thousands of theories. I've heard some people say it was built by the Druids, an ancient order of nature worshippers, for their bloodthirsty rituals. In all the paintings I've seen, Druids always wear long white robes. People say that they performed sacrifices at Stonehenge. They also may have invented ways to predict the best times to plant and harvest crops, using the cycles of the moon. This latest incident may mean that the Druids have returned to claim their ancient temple. How exciting! Perhaps I'll set my next story for Sleuth magazine in Stonehenge.
Oh, Basil, really, your imagination is incredible. Those Stonehenge Druid stories are pure drivel.
Inspector Gage and Aunt Miranda have known each other for years. It's really nice of him to let us take a look at his case file.
That guard's story is odd, but I'm inclined to believe him. Mr. Avery is a long-time employee at Stonehenge, and he has a sterling reputation. Besides, there's a disturbing link between last night's attack and a recent Snootbiz auction. 2 days ago, I attended an estate sale at Snootbiz that uncovered an old letter. It was written by a Lord Langley, who died quite suddenly back in 1842. I believe that the letter has something to do with this case. Indeed, it may be the cause of the attack itself. Langley was a close friend of a former owner of Stonehenge, back before it became a public monument. Apparently, he went digging on part of the site without his friend's permission. What he found 150 years ago may be exactly what our mysterious white-robed assailant sought last night. I was at the auction house when the letter was discovered. I've kept it under lock and key here at Scotland Yard since then. So I know for a fact that only 5 people have seen it. Besides myself and Sondra Trent, the auctioneer at Snootbiz, only 3 people know of the letter's existence. Curator Buckley at the British Museum, his assistant Percy Tribb, and Professor Mathon from Oxford University. Since you two will be helping out on the case, I'd appreciate it if you'd have a look at it as well. I think you'll find that the letter's discovery and last night's attack are no mere coincidence. As you can see, whatever our white-clad trespasser was looking for, he didn't find it. I suspect he gave up and fled as he saw the guard begin to revive.
I was just making me midnight rounds, right, when I saw a strange figure moving in amongst the stones. We close up at 6 p.m. and no one's allowed in again till 10 in the morning. So I took my torch and went to have a look-see. It was that dark I couldn't make out any features, but he was wearing a loose white hooded robe, like I've seen on some of them Druid fellas. I made my way in to tell him to clear off like, but I lost sight of him amongst the stones. When I got inside the Sarson Stones, I felt a hand clamp a fierce-smelling rag to me mouth and nose. Oh, next I knew I were lying on the ground where I'd fallen, and not a soul in sight. When my eyes cleared, I had to look round for the fella, but he must have scarpered off while I were still out. I found my torch aside one of them holes he'd dug, but no trace of him at all.
Snootby's is a really big auction house. They've auctioned off everything from Picasso's paintings to Babe Ruth's first baseball jersey.
Well, I just think it's super that London's Society of Antiquaries is taking such an interest in a letter found here at Snootby's. Of course, Snootby's has always been the place to find the strange and wonderful. Sandra's thrilled, of course. She seems fascinated by the idea that there might be some kind of archaeological treasure from the Stone Age just waiting to be plundered. Seems the excitement was just too much for her. She was too ill to come to work yesterday. I must say I'm amused to no end that they've named Professor Mathan head of the new excavation at Stonehenge. What a blow to that pompous Buckley and his snivelling toady Trib. Well done, I say.
Well, it was a thrilling moment. I took one look at that Duragny cherrywood writing box and I knew instantly it contained a secret panel. Many of that particular period did. Inspector Gage happened to be here bidding on a service revolver that once belonged to Rudyard Kipling. He noticed I was having difficulty opening the box and gave me a hand. The letter was hidden inside. The date on the letter about Stonehenge was July 13th, 1842. I researched the data we had on the estate, and it appears that Lord Langley, the letter's author, never sent it. He died only a few days later after a fall from his horse. Once we read the letter, we immediately called in 3 top experts on Stonehenge, who went over the letter in detail. I was called away to supervise moving a painting, but they all seemed very excited over the letter's contents. I gathered that it referred to some sort of ancient treasure buried at Stonehenge. I've never studied Stonehenge myself, but it sounded like quite a find. An ancient treasure from Stonehenge would probably be quite valuable to a collector.
Mr. Buckley and Mr. Trib look pretty upset. I wonder if they've heard about the attack on Mr. Avery last night.
Can you believe they've put a find like this in the hands of that self-styled Welsh wizard? The greatest expert on Stonehenge alive today, they said. I mean, really. Mathan may be a famous expert, but both Trib and I are as well versed in prehistoric monuments as anyone alive today. This really is a slap in the face to the British Museum, I can tell you.
You know, this is just the sort of find that could make a fellow's career. If a bright fellow, an enterprising fellow, a fellow such as myself, were to dig up those artifacts, well, it could mean offers beyond one's wildest dreams. Imagine books, a lecture tour, seminars at prestigious universities, perhaps even the promotion I so richly deserve. They might even name the findings the Trib Collection.
Trib! Curb your ambitious fantasies for a moment, won't you, and see to filing these papers.
Oh, yes, sir, Mr. Buckley. Right away, sir.
Stonehenge is really mysterious, even when there aren't creepy robbers in white robes hanging out there. Let's see. Which train do we need to get there? Oxford is the university where Professor Mathan teaches. This train will take us there. Oxford University is a really great college. Some of the most famous figures of history have studied here.
Ah, Stonehenge. The ancient Romans named it Perea Gigantum, which means the giant's dance. I've longed to uncover its mysteries since my boyhood in Wales. If only they'd let me begin today. It's a great honour that London's Society of Antiquaries put me in charge of the excavation, but they forced me to put off the dig until October. The idea of waiting that long to unearth this find is driving me to madness.
Could the artifact be some kind of Druid treasure?
No, the Druids probably had little or nothing to do with Stonehenge. I'm hoping that this treasure is a Bronze Age grave from thousands of years ago. If it is, the items buried there will tell us a great deal about Britain's ancient past.
But I thought the Druids built Stonehenge.
That, I'm afraid, is a myth, as unproven as the legends of Merlin the magician. People love to connect Druids with Stonehenge. I suppose it's a romantic image. White-robed figures performing ancient rites among the silent stones. People sometimes prefer to believe what they would like to be true, rather than what historians know to be true.
Then there were no real Druids?
Oh, quite the contrary. Julius Caesar himself wrote about them at the time of the Roman occupation of Britain. The ancient Druids indeed existed. But Stonehenge was constructed almost 2,000 years before the Romans came here, certainly before the Druids ever came to be. Who then built Stonehenge? We may never know, but perhaps this excavation may lend us some clues.
Right. The train to Salisbury will get us to Stonehenge. But which platform do we need to find? My watch says it's 10:09 right now. Have a look at our train schedule and see if you can find out which platform the next train to Salisbury leaves from. That's right. We need to head to platform 7 to catch the 10:15 train to Salisbury. Let's go. Wow, this place is intense. Feel that wind? I read that Salisbury Plain is the windiest place in all of England. Let's see if that guard can tell us anything about the weird stuff that went on last night.
It's got us all a bit spooked, you know, this story of Avery's. Mystical white-robed intruders strolling about the stones. Has me looking over my shoulder, don't you know? Let me show you where the owls were found. They're over here by the inner Sarson Stones. Mind you don't trip over the guard rope now.
Thanks for letting us inside the rope barrier, Mr. Becker. Is that there to help the police keep the crime scene fresh?
Oh no, this rope is up all year round. Before this barrier was up, I'm sad to say, some visitors to Stonehenge would carve their initials in the stones and even chip off pieces of them as souvenirs. If everyone did that, there'd soon be nothing left.
The guidebook calls this stone the heel stone. It's far outside the stone circle, marking the path that leads into the center.
Ah, you found the heel stone. All of the rocks here are mysterious and ancient, but this one has a very special meaning.
What do you mean, Mr. Becker? Is this where the Druids performed human sacrifices? Wow!
Human sacrifices? Who told you that rubbish? No, this stone is more of an astronomical signpost. It was set here by the ancients to help them mark the longest day of the year, Midsummer's Day. On that day, if you stand in the center of the stone circle, you'll see the sunrise right on the tip of this stone. Anyone who studies Stonehenge could tell you that.
So this is the stone that would be crowned by the midsummer sunrise. But the mysterious figure in white didn't dig around this stone at all. I wonder why. The guidebook says that these huge standing stones are called the Sarson Stones. The stone across the top is called a lintel. Scientists believe that these stone circles were built over 4,000 years ago. Some of the rocks have fallen over since then, but you can still see the shape of the inner horseshoe and the outer circle that make up Stonehenge. The smaller stones that make a circle inside the Sarson Stones are called blue stones because of their bluish color. The guidebook says these stones were brought here from the Preseli Mountains in Wales, almost 250 miles away. No one is absolutely sure how the people who built Stonehenge managed to transport the huge rocks across that great distance. In 2000 BC, there were no trucks or railroads to make the job easier. I think we've got the evidence we need. Choose the clues that you think best point out our suspect. Those are the clues we need. Now, point out who you suspect of digging for the ancient treasure. This mystery had a few misleading trails. In the end, what mattered wasn't what the culprit knew, but what they didn't know. Whoever attacked the guard was looking for something like the treasure mentioned in Lord Langley's letter. Inspector Gage told us that only he, Sandra Trent, Professor Mathan, Curator Buckley, and Percy Tribb had seen Lord Langley's letter. The inspector's desk calendar showed that he had been on a stakeout all night with 2 other constables, so we could rule him out. The letter said that the ancient artifacts were buried under the stone, crowned by the midsummer sunrise. Mr. Becker, the day guard at Stonehenge, told us that a person standing in the center of Stonehenge would see the sun come up at the heel stone on the midsummer's day. He said that anyone who'd studied Stonehenge would know this. But the person who attacked the guard didn't know this. They dug for the treasure underneath the stones which make up the inner circle, not at the heel stone, which is way outside the main area. Professor Mathan, Curator Buckley, and Percy Tribb are all experts on Stonehenge. They knew instantly that the treasure was buried under the heel stone, and that's where they would have dug to retrieve it. But Sandra Trent is not an expert on Stonehenge. Overhearing the conversation of the others, she realized that the giant's dance referred to Stonehenge, but she did not catch the reference to the heel stone. So when she went to Stonehenge and assaulted the guard, she dug for the treasure under the wrong stones.
Thank you.